City of Great Racks is the 4th episode of the 5th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by John Widdoes, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. In general, I thought it was an okay episode. It's probably never going to be a personal favourite, but there's nothing wrong with it. It starts off establishing that Charlie and Linda are still together, and then Charlie thinks he sees Rose. And this is basically what the whole episode is about. We're then at the coffee shop with Jake and Alan. Really enjoyed that scene. Very well done. And again, Charlie thinks he saw Rose. But Jake said that he got a postcard from Rose recently from England. So it couldn't be Rose. And back at the house, Charlie is reading a letter from Rose that he got several months ago. And Berta has some comments on this. And then we get a montage, which I didn't love, but I'm not a huge fan of montages in general. But it was fine. I guess the clip selection was very good. The music was very good. But I did love the moment. It was absolutely worth it, because when the montage is obviously the thoughts that are going through Charlie's head as he's remembering all of these times with Rose, and then he's pulled out of that, and all we see, relatively close up, is Alan naked with pegs, clothes pegs, on his nipples. And honestly, it was quite a shock. If you'd asked me to guess what we'd see after the montage, it wouldn't have been that. I couldn't remember it, which I'm glad about, because the shock factor, the comedy value, definitely very strong there. And we then cut to Charlie and Linda in a hotel room. They're finally going to spend the night together. And room service arrives. And again, Charlie sees Rose. And there's also a Rose on the table, on the trolley, the room service trolley, which he tries to cover up, but it doesn't work anyway, because as he confides in Alan in the following morning, or the next morning, he wasn't able to perform the way he'd like to, and he can't stop thinking about Rose. And he then goes to see Dr. Freeman. Very, very well written scene. Really thoroughly enjoyed their interactions, which is usually the case. I think Dr. Freeman is a brilliant character, and she establishes that Charlie is seeing Rose because he's in what one would consider to be quite a committed, serious relationship, or one that has the potential for that, and that's quite a grown-up, mature thing. Whereas his relationship with Rose, she idolised him, worshipped him, stalked him excessively, and there's nothing grown up about that. There's nothing mature about that, and it's a very different dynamic, and that's why he's seeing Rose, because he's afraid to commit to this grown up relationship. So his mind is, I don't need to over explain it, I don't know why I'm going into too much detail, the episode explains it well, but that's where Charlie's head is at, and I think that that's a pretty good theory, and clearly driven by this fear. The next thing we see is a plane, and announcing that they're going to Heathrow, and he turns up at Rose's apartment. He obviously has an address for her, and Rose is in. And I think Rose answering the door was meant to make us believe, for a little bit, that she was in England. There's no way Charlie could have seen her. But then, a few seconds later, as Rose leaves the door to go for a drink with Charlie, we see her suitcase with luggage tags on. She's obviously been, I mean, they could have been the luggage tags from travelling to England, I guess, but luggage with the wigs beside them, establishing that actually we can come to the conclusion that Rose had been in Malibu. And then very briefly we're back at the apartment, which I think is quite interesting, because Linda turns up and Alan doesn't know where Charlie is, nobody knows where Charlie is, so he's clearly gone off to London as a spur of the moment thing, panicked, not told anybody he's going there, which I think says a lot about how he's definitely acting on impulse here and not really thinking things through. And that's basically how the rest of the episode goes. He's in a bar with Rose in London, and he tells her how he feels, which I think was really lovely. And that in itself, I guess, was a sign of maturity. But then she says, where do we go from here? I need some kind of commitment. We can't just carry on the way we were. And she starts talking about marriage and kids. And the last thing we see is a plane heading back to the States, clearly with Charlie on that plane. So I like the fact that they kind of wrapped this up in one episode. At least I'm assuming so. I can't remember exactly what happens next. It's been a long time since I used to binge watch the show, and then I stopped, and my terrible memory means that I can't remember a lot of small details. So I'm looking forward to finding out what happens next, because I can't really remember. But either way, this episode I thought was pretty decent. I don't know if I have many personal highlights. I think, actually, I quite liked everything Jake did in this episode. I just thought Jake was pretty funny. And I don't mind Linda as a character. I don't think she's right for Charlie, but I don't mind her. And I guess the personal highlight, the bit that I thought was the best, the most well done, was when we have the montage and then we cut to Alan, and just completely unpredictable, very funny, very, very well done. So it's a good episode. It's never going to be a personal favourite, but if I'm binge watching this season, I don't think I'd ever skip it. City of Great Racks is not too bad.